look at that. A computer. And what's that on the screen? Why, it's a very real website. Well, what if we just, there we go. A smartphone. But what's happened to the website? It's almost as if the design has responded to my new device. Yes, that. What is responsive web design, you ask? Let's bend time back to the launch of the 2010s, shall we? When companies were asking more and more for designers to make a phone website in addition to their regular website. Now, as mobile devices became increasingly popular as a tool to surf the web, making separate versions of one website for each screen type simply became inefficient. What if instead, thought the designers, we build websites with the fluidity of water, able to adapt to the parameters of different screen types? While it's not a perfect science, it's still a pretty cool way of doing things. You want more details? Very well. In his 2010 article, A List Apart, independent designer Ethan Marcotte is credited with coining the aforementioned term responsive web design. He goes on to name fluid grids, flexible images, and media queries as the 3 technical ingredients of responsive web design. Let's get into it. Fluid grids. Basically, this ingredient centers around the concept of making your website real squishy. Let me show you what I mean. See how the elements are scaling down as the size of the screen squishes? Well, that all depends on utilizing a framework called CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It's a grid system which sets out the layout for your page. It's like setting up a squish threshold for your design elements based on a percentage. Still a little fuzzy? Well, what's the maximum size you want this element to take, divided by the maximum size of the browser being used? Just plug that into the CSS script, and you'll have your elements squishing along with the appropriate screen size. Fluid grids are just that. Fluid. They shuffle design content, so this on a laptop might become this on a tablet, or this on a smartphone. Very squishy. Our next ingredient is flexible images. Text is easier to work with, while images are not squishy by default. They tend to stay at a fixed size no matter what you're viewing them on. This can make the rest of your design look clumsy. So they need some extra attention. To remedy this, we must utilize a CSS command. One of the most helpful ways is to set up the maximum width of your images to 100%. This makes it so the images can't overwhelm the screen. Ooh, so flexible. And now, friends and foes, the final ingredient. Media queries. Because sometimes the technological sauce just needs a little something extra to really bring out the responsiveness. That is where media queries come in. They're essentially filters that detect a device's dimensions and change a very real website design accordingly with CSS. When you think about it, there are so many things a design can respond to. A screen's dimensions, its orientation. Can it hover? Is it a touch screen? Media queries are able to apply responding styles for a design and tell the site how it should render, depending on the screen type and its needs. So, you can do things like change the font size, navigation menus, or even, if you are so compelled, the background color, depending on the screen size or capabilities. Like I said, pretty cool. Of course, it's not always perfect. Designing for responsiveness even affects the animation. Animated assets sometimes need to be reworked for the context of smaller screens. So, take a look at this whoosh thing. If I just slap it on a phone, the animation would be awkward with the layout, despite being squished. But if we just simplify a bit, look at that. We've optimized the whoosh. As the devices we use to browse the web continue to diversify, responsive web design is becoming all the more necessary. Websites designed with this approach only call for a singular URL. No need to worry about extra coding for separate websites either. Now, that's just more money in your pocket. Someone's pocket. That's how your favorite, very real websites are able to translate and function on basically whatever device they're on. And the user gets a cohesive experience, even from this, to this, to this. Now, if you'll kindly stop looking at my screen, I have very real things to do. Yeah, they're real. I gotta go.